This episode of A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live is brought to you in part by Viewfinder's Identity Search and Design. Your choice for web design, graphic design, and all multimedia development needs. Visit VFISAD.com and let us bring your vision to reality.
This is Allison Lee Rosenfeld, the voice of Bonnie and Nurse Joy from Pokémon, Rio Castle, Riley, and Allie from Yu-Gi-Oh!, and star of Crumbly Kitchen. You're listening to A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live.
This week, Pokémon Sword and Shield returns with the first of 2 expansion quests as we review the Isle of Armor. All this and more as A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live Extra Select Start.
Welcome to the show to give you all the news, views, and opinions in the world of gaming. This is A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live Extras Select Start with your host, A.C.M.G. Josiah. Power up and game on.
Everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Select Start. I am your host, Xavier Josiah. Hope everybody had a great and safe Juneteenth, and that is exactly why we did not do a show normally, which is normally Thursday or Friday. Thursday, mostly because I was, playing the game that we're going to review this week, and second is that Friday was June 19th, and out of respect to that, I decided to take off like I would any other holiday because it is a holiday that deserves to be celebrated. If you don't know anything about Juneteenth or why a big deal is being made this year more than any other year, you need to Google it. I can tell you this short and simple answer: it is the absolute true day of independence. It is the day that we were officially all free, quote unquote. And Google it, look up the history. If you saw the special on ABC, which I felt like they did a really, really good job doing yesterday, covering Juneteenth, definitely go check it out. There are plenty of ways. You could go back to the old episode of Blackish, which I kind of credit Kenya Barris and the cast of Blackish for acknowledging it, because honestly, even us, a lot of us didn't even know about this holiday up until recent. And some people did. Some people were, in tune. A lot of people were, because that was one of the things they missed out in high school or elementary school. Even in our communities, we didn't know about this holiday and know about this part of history. And that's truth. That is real truth. And it's just now getting out there. And now, I think Kenya Barris deserves a little bit of credit by writing in stories about this holiday and about this actual day in history. So if you don't know about it, if you want to cheat a little bit, definitely go check out the Blackish episode called Juneteenth. Also, his other show, Black AF, which also kind of covers a little bit of Juneteenth, or it partially does. But also, and to those who saw that Juneteenth special on ABC, they did a really good job covering some things on there. It was really well done. But out of respect, we decided to take off, and I was like, sure, we just do back to back. Hell, I did 2 episodes in one day. I used to do 5 episodes in a week. It's not a big deal for me, but it needed to be done. It needed to be done, and we need to really point this holiday as a true holiday in a day in our American history. 47 states already celebrates it, and we need the other 3 to get on the ball. And then we also need it to be a national holiday, a true national holiday. So here's the hoping. Shout out to Kamala Harris and everybody else that's trying to pull that in, and they've been trying to do it for quite some time, but it is what it is. But I digress. This episode of Select Start, we are going to review the first of 2 expansion quests from Pokémon Sword and Shield. The Isle of Armor will be our final stage review on this episode, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to definitely talk about that, what I thought about it, overall, and whether it was worth the money put in. So we'll definitely get on the ball with that as well. But we got some news to talk about, so let's jump on that. Some really interesting news that just came about here. This is really kind of big news as far as gaming is concerned as well. Guinness Book of Records reinstates Billy Mitchell into the legendary list of record breakers once again. If you guys remember, Billy Mitchell, if you're a hardcore gamer like that, Billy Mitchell was acknowledged for achieving a world record-setting scores on Pac-Man and Donkey Kong, but was disqualified from the Guinness World Records due to word that Mitchell achieved his legendary accomplishments on an emulator. Now, while some may not understand the emulator situation, emulators kind of will give you the opportunity to take liberties with certain ways of gameplay if you really know what you're doing. So, I mean, no different than a cab, though. That's the thing that gets me. It's like you can't. I mean, I guess you can if you're smart and savvy like that. You can, change the code to do some things that will allow you to take liberties with the scores, I guess. But I guess if you already have it in the cab, it's already set in a sense. But emulators probably is the reason why emulators are probably not considered a regulated method of getting game scores in this case, because you have an easier way to manipulate the code and manipulate the configurations to make it to your means. But upon new discoveries by Guinness, they decided that the new evidence warranted their decision to reinstate Mitchell's records back in the history books. Mitchell achieved 5 legendary scores from 1982 all the way to 2010, which includes the highest score in Donkey Kong, which is 874,300 points on November of 1982. That was the first one. That was the one that was documented. That was on the documentary. First perfect score on Pac-Man, which was 3,333,360 points. God, that probably took forever. In July 3rd of 1999. June 4th, 2005, 4th of July 2005, he had the highest score from Donkey Kong once again, 1,047,200 points on Independence Day 2005. He then went ahead 2 years later to beat another score with Donkey Kong with 1,050,200 points on July 14th, 2 years later in 2007. Then in 2010, he beat his highest score once again, 1,062,800, July 31st, 2010. So, amongst that, what happened was, from what I read, reports were saying that basically he had video footage of him actually configuring the settings for Pac-Man and Donkey Kong at the proper settings, the normal settings that is required to play the game and get the scores. So when they saw that warranted them to actually reinstate him. And that's awesome. That is awesome. He filed lawsuits against many people to clear his name. And this is the part I keep talking about. This is the part I so love what he did. I respect anybody who fights for their word. I remember, if you guys remember, I told you about, my story and how I was, wrongfully arrested for mistaken identity of a robbery a while back. And if you haven't heard that, go back to my episode where I reviewed Just Mercy, because I told my story of that as well. But I am a big advocate of people who are truly innocent of their accusations or crimes, and they fight for it. Because when you are blamed for something, when you're absolutely accused of something that you didn't do, your first natural reaction is to fight back. You're going to defend your name, because if you truly did something, you're not going to put much weight on it because you did it. And even if you lied about it, there's still a way to actually notice that you did it, because you're not fighting. You're not fighting. And there's a certain way of how people fight. And I know there are people can say like, well, people yell and all. Yeah, no. There's a certain way that because people who BS when they try to say that they don't do it and get loud because they think getting loud is going to, is going to actually do it. No, that really rarely ever works. You have to back it up. If you go as far as looking for evidence, if you try to clear your name in what way and such, there's a big chance that person really actually didn't do it because he actually is going out of his way to find evidence of his innocence. That's what Billy did. That's what I did. Like, we never hid away from the situation. We fought for our name. It's just as clear as that. When you really didn't do something, you're going to fight for you because your name means something. Your name means everything. You want to make sure that your name stands for something, at least most people. And when it comes to stuff like that, you definitely want to go all out. And that's what people do. Whenever I see somebody go all out to try to clear their name, to me, that leans me on the side of there's a possibility that person really didn't do it, or he really didn't say he did. When people, it's all in how people react upon the accusation. And it does take time. Sometimes it doesn't happen instantly, but when people, you could just trust me, you could just tell when people are true to their word in this case. And Billy Mitchell, really, he went all out. It took him a long time to do this. But he finally got it out and he finally got reinstated. So kudos to Billy Mitchell for that, because I think that this is awesome results. And especially during this time. I mean, this man created a legacy on it in his own right in the world of gaming. And that will never be taken away. And you know what's great about this? They did a documentary on him in this score. I forgot. I believe I saw that a while back, but I don't remember if they put something afterwards that said that his scores were taken out. They have the means to do a documentary fighting this. This is a means to do a whole entire new documentary talking about this whole entire issue. This is a great follow-up for him and anybody to check it out. If I was those guys who put it together, now granted we're on a different time, now with COVID-19 and everything, so I don't know how much they can do in a sense of getting to talk to him up close. Now, we are starting to open up more, so we'll see. But this is a perfect opportunity. This is actually more of an opportunity for those guys to be able to do a whole new documentary, because I would love to hear about what went into all of this and what went down. And this is awesome. This is absolutely awesome. So kudos to Billy Mitchell on that note. And, with everything going on, to get that into news, if I was, put, shoe on the other foot, I would be ecstatic and relieved that, my legacy has been sealed and been proven. So, that's awesome. I really dig that. That's awesome. You know what else is awesome, folks? NetherRealm. NetherRealm. The makers of such games as Mortal Kombat, Injustice God Among Us, the Justice series, and that's it. They don't do anything else. But actually, that's really crazy, because like Injustice, like the whole Injustice thing and the Mortal Kombat thing, that's all they've done. And Ed Boon got paid for life on those just alone. It's kind of like Game Freak when they made Pokemon games through all their life, and they tried to go outside of that, and it just didn't work out. Yeah, sorry, my little town hero. That shit sucked. But they are doing something really, really cool here. Today is the 20th, and you have an opportunity right now. If you haven't already, if you haven't played it in a while, if you don't own it, on the Xbox and PS4, you have the opportunity to play Injustice God Among Us for free this weekend from and from what the tweet said, till the 25th. There is no reason as to why they're doing this, and at this point, I don't care. I already own the game. I own the game on. I own the game both on the PS Vita and PS4, and I believe PS3 as well. It's an awesome game, even to this day. It's an awesome game with a fantastic story. I don't know why they're doing this. Just, whenever they do stuff, it always leads to something else. All I know is that I am still waiting for them to put Injustice 1 and 2 on the Nintendo Switch, because they can do it. It can be done. It absolutely can be done. I had this conversation, by the way, with one of our A.C.M.G members, and I forget what game was it that we were talking about here. I want to believe I forgot what game this was that we were talking about, but he, for some reason, felt like, oh God, what game was this? Because the deal was that it was Kingdom Hearts. It was Kingdom Hearts. Yeah, all right. So Kingdom Hearts announced that they're doing a brand new game. It's a rhythm game that will be available for the Nintendo Switch and the PlayStation 4. I forgot. I don't know if it's going to be an Xbox, but whatever. But it's coming. And we had this conversation about them putting Kingdom Hearts 3 on the Nintendo Switch. Now, take note. While I believe that it's amazing that some of these games are being put in, the reality is not every game is going to make it on a Nintendo Switch. I think Kingdom Hearts 3 will not make it on, and I could be absolutely wrong here, but just judging on what I've always known and learned about things, there's some games that, the misconception that I think people have sometimes is that they tend to think that game companies can just up and do things at the snap of a finger without any thought or strategy or planning. No, there's always a budget that they have to worry about. There's always time restriction that they have to worry about, because you can't just say up and do this game. How many people is going to take to put this game together? How much time is it going to take away from another game that we're going to be working on? And most importantly, is this going to make money off of the capital and time and all that you're going to put in? It's not that simple. It is never that simple. You can't just up and do it. People have this misconception. Gamers has this misconception that they just think about putting any game at any time on any console, and that's it. No, there's a huge thought process here. They actually have staff meetings where they strategize on what's the best game to come out that will get the most out of their dollar. You got to remember, they're a company. They put a lot of money into these games. They have a capital. They have a certain budget. So they can't put in $1 million budget on something if they're not going to get $1 million or more back. And sometimes breaking even is not enough. And when it comes to Square Enix, if you guys all remember, because for some reason the person felt that the reason why Kingdom Hearts did not succeed was because it wasn't on a Nintendo Switch. No. Okay, here's the problem with that. I had to stop him there. When Kingdom Hearts was first announced, there was no mention of the Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch wasn't even thought of. It wasn't even, they didn't even announce a new Nintendo console when that's how far back. You got to remember, what I believe is the true fail, or the lack of true success of Kingdom Hearts 3 was due to too little too late. And if you remember, I'm thinking it took at least, I've watched E3 consistently for 5 years. During those 5 years, we've been hearing, or 4 years for that matter, we've been hearing Kingdom Hearts 3 coming out back to back to back. And every single time Kingdom Hearts was announced, there was no release date. It was always a delay. There was always stuff going on, and it never came out. And fans were uberly hyped when it first announced, myself included. Then still hyped the second year. Then the hype started to dilute the third year, then the fourth year came, and then by the time it finally happened, the hype was gone. And you didn't have that same feel. So, like, even by the time I've even played Kingdom Hearts, even when playing Kingdom Hearts 3, I was like, I just didn't have the hype feel I had, because it was just like, I waited so long for this and it's here. And then when I played it, it wasn't like, it didn't live up. It didn't live up. And a lot of people felt it was good, but it didn't give you that epic feel. No, it is not because it was on a PlayStation. It wasn't on the Switch. It was not. It was due to lack of delays, a lot of hype promotion and no give back. And that's something that we always had with Square Enix. They take forever to make a game, but when a game comes out, it usually is great. But when it came to Kingdom Hearts, for some reason, it just flushed all the hype out. And which is really interesting, because when they announced Final Fantasy VII Remake, they made sure not to make that damn mistake again. And there was no way they're going to make that mistake again. So when they said that they were going to do it, if you notice when they were talking about it, when they kept bringing it up, they had new footage. They didn't show it as much as they did Kingdom Hearts the years before. I guarantee they learned a lot from that experience. They didn't show it as much, and when they did, they had some things that was worth mentioning, and then they finally came out with the date. They did not want to screw up people's expectations and hype for this game, and they didn't. They did everything right with that game, which was the polar opposite of what they were doing with Kingdom Hearts 3. And when we finally got it, not only did we get it on time, well, digitally at least, but we also got it everything that we asked for and more. And they got their money back hugely from that. So, and you got to remember, that's an exclusive. That was not on the Switch. I don't understand the logic of why he felt that it needed to be on the Switch to be successful. It was impossible. The Switch was never even mentioned when the first time it was out. And also, memory capacity. Kingdom Hearts 3 is is minimum 40 gigs big. Nintendo Switch games, at best, only go up to 30. And that's stretching it. That is stretching it. The Witcher, you got NBA 2K, 2K20. WWE 2K19 is about like 20 gigs. There's some games that are huge in this system. And look, I gotta tell you, like, it just wouldn't happen. Not to mention, if it took them like all those years to put together Kingdom Hearts 3 and all that money to put together Kingdom Hearts 3, take a feel as to how long it may take to port that onto the Nintendo Switch by also diluting the graphics and sacrificing the graphic capacity and power just to fit that into the game. Is it worth the money? Will they get that money? I kind of believe they won't. Now, if you're talking about Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 and the side and the spin-off games that they made for that, yes, because those games were out during the PlayStation 2. They were out during the PlayStation 3, and they are, as far as memory capacity, they are much, much lower. They made Kingdom Hearts 3 specifically for the next-gen systems to have that same graphic quality. Now, I believe if Nintendo comes out with another system later down the line, a new-gen system that is going to be more powerful than the Switch, I believe that system will be able to easily port a game like Kingdom Hearts 3 if they wanted to. But they're already doing so much with the Switch right now. It's going to be really, really hard for them to put that in there and make that all fit and download it. And again, I could be wrong. This is just my hypothesis, if you want to put it that way. But I really don't see Kingdom Hearts being put on a Switch. It's just not. It's just unrealistic to me that they would do that. I can see the other games maybe, but not Kingdom Hearts 3. But, again, you got to think about, you can't just openly just say something without putting any thought process in it. Like, this is why I think like people who are online. This is why misconceptions always come in, and you get these stupid arguments and debates with people who don't really understand how the companies work and how the systems work. You know, if you want to really truly understand that, listen to some of the interviews that I've done with some of the people who are behind the scenes of some of your favorite games. Or just in general, because they're game developers and they know what the hell they're talking about from experience. And if you learn from that, then you get an understanding of that. But you cannot say, you just really cannot assume that they're going to come out with a game just for the sake of, for no reason, because they got the money. No, a lot of these damn companies really don't have the money, and that's why they strategically come out with these things, because they got a budget. They have a budget, they got a capital, they got to make back on that bank. And you can't just loosely just come out with a game and thinking like, oh, we can afford to do this. No. Time. There's it's a great point. There is a game called Game Dev Story. And I really should. I believe I've reviewed this a long time ago. Game Dev Story is just one of many different simulation games. It's like an 8-bit simulation game. I believe Kairosoft is the name of the company. And I love these games because they do kind of give a simple, realistic type of way of how things work in certain aspects. And Game Dev Story, just like they do Anime Story, which is another one that I love because you're working in an anime studio and you're trying to create a anime that will make a lot of money, that will get a lot of popularity. Game Dev Story has you making the top game. You're trying to make an award-winning game. You make a game that will make profit based on the money that you have, and you just from there, the more successful you are at making a game, and the more money you get, the more you'll be able to do. But it's not that easy. It's not that simple. You still gotta hire people. You still gotta do all these things, and there's so much. Like, people really need to jump on that. It's such a Game Dev Story is such a great perspective of how things are, but not to its totality. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more to it, but they put in a lot of thought process to let people understand what goes into these things, and really, how good are you at think. It's a really great game to put your money where your mouth is. All the people who talk a lot of crap about what they think they know, play that game. See how successful you are and see what goes into it. And that's just that's just one aspect. If you don't make any money from playing that game, then you don't know what the hell you're talking about from the get-go. But it reminds me of how, Fisher Price. This is like a video game version of Fisher Price for adults to like be able to learn about how things are done respectfully. And then you go into the industry and you figure out it's a little bit of that plus a lot more. So, it's just one of those things right there. It's just no way. I mean, if you really want to know more about what's going on in the game development system, don't assume what you know. Don't just say stuff out of your ass, typing on a couch. Actually do the research. Actually do your homework. Actually get in touch with people, in the industry. Hell, do what I do. Or you can listen to one of my interviews, or all of my interviews on TalkTimeLive.com/exclusives, or they tap into the exclusives tab on the website, and you can listen to some of those people because they know what the hell they're talking about, and what you think you may not know. That's just plain and simple. So this summer, this is a very interesting summer. We got a lot going on. A lot. I can't stress that enough. A lot going on. But with the unfortunate canceling of E3, game companies and media has been trying very hard to give us something of that type of feel by doing a Summer of Gaming series, which unfortunately, at the end of the day, it's doing what it's doing, but I don't think it's doing nearly enough of what E3 has done, because it's not being talked about. It's not, it's barely being talked about in all formats. social media hasn't really mentioned anything about the Summer Games. I mean, individually, people are talking about certain aspects, like the PlayStation was a big deal. The PlayStation pretty much should have been just E3 itself at this case. There are other companies that are going to be showing their games and showcasing their games and stuff like that, and it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be interesting to see, but there are some new events that are coming up very soon. For instance, a presentation called New Game Plus Expo is coming, and all these are virtual expos as well. These are not live events. These are all virtual events, and because of COVID-19, everything has to result to, video presentations. Something that, Nintendo has spearheaded successfully, very successfully, I might add. But New Game Plus Expo coming June 23rd. It's going to be showcasing upcoming releases from developers and publishers such as Sega, Atlas, S&K, WayForward, Arc System Works, Gun-Ho, Natsumi, Spike Chunsoft, and much more. And that Spike Chunsoft is going to be very interesting because I wonder what that's going to be about. Can we finally get Fire Pro on the Switch? Because that's going to kill things. That is really going to kill things if that's what they're doing. I think now's the time. I think now's the time for them to put that on that system. There is no reason why it shouldn't have never been on that system. It's been tested more than enough on the PlayStation as well as on Steam as well. By the way, shout out to Ed on our A.C.M.G Facebook group. He actually pointed out that there is a new expansion, a free expansion for Fire Pro Wrestling World right now, and that's the what is that? That is the Movecraft. I guess you could create your own moves. I haven't tested it out yet. Downloaded it, but I haven't tested it out yet. But you will be able to, from what I read, you'll be able to create your own moves or modify different moves to do something that you want. So if the Kaneko Buster is not already in there, it will be in there. But I believe it's in there possibly because somebody from Stardom uses the Kaneko Buster and beautifully. So hopefully that's in there. If not, and if they allow me, I will create the Kaneko Buster. That's a whole nother thing for a whole nother episode, folks. But they also, the show will be shown on Twitch from 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're in the East Coast, 11 a.m. If you're in the West Coast, 8 a.m. So don't miss it. There's a lot of great companies in there, some of which have been on our show. Here, I'm talking about WayForward at best. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to be promoting from there. Especially WayForward, because WayForward I'm a big fan of, always have been. Shout out to all of them over there. Really cool guys over there, and their work has just been phenomenal. Always been a fan of their stuff, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they're coming out with next in this news. So June 23rd, get ready to check that out there. You also, I am actually excited about this because now I've seen so much of it. I am looking forward to playing this game, Marvel's Avengers War Table, on June 24th, the day after, from 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, West Coast 10 a.m., East Coast 1 p.m. We will get our first look at new gameplay, including co-op play, story missions, and more. You can check it out on the Square Enix channel on Twitch when that arrives. So, folks, that will do it for this news edition here. We're going to take a break, come back, and have our final stage review of Pokémon Sword and Shield Isle of Armor. We'll do that right after this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dax Xavier Josiah, the host of A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live, the podcast. You want to catch up with all of our podcast shows and hear from some of the hottest names in all of anime, comics, movies, and games, such as...
This is Miley Flanagan, the voice of Naruto.
This is Stephanie Shea, the voice of Sailor Moon.
This is Ruben Langdon, voice of Ken Masters and Dante from Devil May Cry.
Hey there, this is Kyle Hebert, the voice of Ryu from Street Fighter V.
This is Chris Battle, character designer of Teen Titans Go.
Here's your chance to check out all of that and more on TalkTimeLive.com. TalkTimeLive.com provides all of our ACMG content with new and previous episodes, exclusive interviews, articles, and much more. Visit TalkTimeLive.com and let us help you learn to let go, live life, and love all things ACMG.
Talk Time Live.
folks, we are back with our final stage review, and it is my review of Pokemon Sword and Shield. Isle of Armor is the one of 2 expansion quests that you will get from getting the season pass. Before I do that, I do want to point out and give a disclaimer once again that any reviews that I give are basically my opinion on my experience of it. What that means is that is my opinion of my experience of it, and that is it. It is not a way of dictating whether you should play it or not. It is just saying what I believe. This is from a fan review, which is the same as with your review, and I'm saying that because at the end of the day, it is all about what you think. Whether you agree or disagree with what I think, that's one thing. Whether if I give you some constructive criticism or thought to what I critique, you know, that can help you and give you an idea of whether you want to play the game or not. That's a whole thing. And I'm saying this because I'm looking at my A.C.M.G. Facebook group, and one of the, they're bringing up The Last of Us 2, which looks like a great game. The Last of Us 2, and why possibly I never will review that game or the first one is because that's not my type of game. And I've done the zombie thing or whatever the hell is based on, or the survival games like that. It's just not my deal. It's just not my deal. I don't get down on those type of games, and that's fine. There are other people who do. I respect that. I do want to say this. It is a beautiful looking game. I do love the trailer with the main character, playing a guitar and all that stuff. It's beautiful. And I do kind of know the narrative and story of what's going on there and the follow up to the first game. That's awesome. But it's just not my type of game. I have a different feel for the games that I play, and I that's just the way I like it. Some people dig it, some people don't. But that's okay. But one of my members of the A.C.M.G. Facebook group, they were talking about The Last of Us. My man Craig posted something about The Last of Us, and one of my members, Wesley, believe she put it on there and asked, what is the big controversy, or why people are making a big deal about the game? And I had to stress this out, that normally when people make a big deal about it, or we think that people are making a big deal about things, and sometimes a lot of people are, sometimes a big percentage of people are, but it's usually the vocal minority of people. And those are the loudest people. Those are the loudest ones that are making a lot of noise. And it may seem like it's a bunch of people, but when you really think about it, it's really not. It never usually is a lot of people. It's usually a small group of people who make the loudest noise. But if you look at the numbers, if you look at the sales, if you look at the reviews of certain things, then yeah, it usually is. But I can't speak for The Last of Us because, once again, I haven't played it. But. And this is why sometimes I wish I did have other people on that can talk about this. But, certain games that I don't play. But it's really hard to find consistent people who can consistently be on the show. Because, it's a lot. It takes a lot to do on this show. And if you realize that we had people on the show years back and we don't now, there's a reason for that. But, you gotta really don't take too much weight. Don't put too much weight on what other people think. If you enjoy these games on your own, don't feel bad because somebody else doesn't. That's their kick. Enjoy the games the way you want it. We could talk about games all day. I could give my review, my critique, my opinion, but and you could take it for what you want. It may help you, it may not. But at the end of the day, if you enjoy it, enjoy it. If you didn't enjoy it, that's your deal. That's all I'm saying. It's all about you, but don't put too much weight on the vocal minority, which is just a small group of people. And I think people need to stress that and say that vocal minority term more, because it'll imprint and condition themselves to realize that that's just a small group of people in one section of a social media group of millions. And the majority may actually like the game more than anything. you got to, I mean, there's some things that are warranted, you know, about certain things in certain games, in certain aspects, but in other cases, it's like, it really isn't. It really isn't. So take it for what you will. Don't put too much emphasis on my things or other things as well, but I'm just saying. Now, with that said, here's my review of Isle of Armor, which is, again, the first of 2 expansion storylines of the latest Pokemon game on the Nintendo Switch, which arrived this week. What did I think of this game, and what did they have to offer this time around? Well, we got a new story involving your trainer heading to a new land outside of the Gala region. In this short story, and it was short, your trainer goes on a journey to a land known as the Isle of Armor. This is a land which is basically an island separate from the Gala region, thereby also distancing themselves from anything that's going on in that region. As you go into the story, you start to realize that they're far away from this land. The Isle of Armor almost plays like the Shaolin Temple. And if you go to the Shaolin Temple, they are so far removed from anything that goes on in any other country in the world. They just have their own ideology and their own thing going on. So this is an island that separates himself, you know, from that land. But when you first arrive, you come from the train station, which is weird that you're going to a train station, because if you look at the map, I didn't think about this. If you look at the map, you get an armor pass, or you get a pass that takes you to the Isle of Armor. But if you look at the map, it is separate from. So maybe you're going underwater. There's an underwater train tunnel, which is not too far off. There's some areas in our city that goes under, you know, with their trains, but it's just really interesting. I don't know how to answer that. If that you travel by train or by no, that's not true. I forgot. No, that's not true. You travel by flight, because I remember when you go. Okay, I just answered my own question. When you first start into the game and you first travel there, you travel via one of those air flight things. So I just answered my question. Enough said. Moving on. I thought you traveled for the train station though. It just Pokemon. But you first go. You get from that station, and you will meet Clara, who is the story's new focus, basically focal point, and your trainer's new rival, pretty much. Clara was there to pick up the latest student of the dojo, but fell into a bit of an altercation with you at the beginning. Clara comes off a little bit like spoiled and entitled in this story, because she will eventually become the most annoying character in the story of this expansion quest. So from there, you will travel to the Field of Honor, to where you will meet Dojo Master Mustard and his younger wife Honey, who believes you are the new student that is supposed to be that you're supposed to be training with. So you go along with it, even though you are not, and you have the opportunity to train with this new Pokemon master. I want to take note, and I thought this was really funny, because the minute I saw these two together, I found out that they were a couple. The first thing that came to my mind, it is very possible that they did this. It is very possible that the couple of Mustard and Clara were based on the actors Ed O'Neill, which many of you know as Al Bundy, or in this case, I forgot the character that he plays on with Sofia Vergara in Modern Family. If you look at Honey, and I put up a picture of Honey and Sofia Vergara, they look exactly the same. Well, I don't want to say exactly, because there's some slight differences in character design. I'm just going to say it like that. In framework, if you will. But the face, and if you put longer hair on her, in a sense, there's some resemblance of Sofia Vergara and Honey. And the fact that she's married to Dojo Master Mustard as an older gentleman with a younger, wife, It kind of plays on that. It really kind of plays on it. It's very interesting that that dynamic is there. But Honey's, just look at it. Put yourself up. In fact, on Instagram, I'll probably do the comparison on that with theirs as well. So we'll see. But Honey also introduces you to her son Hyde, who later shows that he is making a robotic Pokemon made of a gasoline cannon and a vacuum cleaner with a duck head. And I'm kind of thinking, I'm like, this kid looks very young. Why are they letting him use anything that involves a gasoline canteen to make a robot from a back like that? I just feel like that's just really irresponsible as parents in there, but that's a whole nother thing. Clara unfortunately never picked up the new student, thinking she would be punished. As a result, she ends up claiming your trainer, your character, as the new student, so she wouldn't get in trouble. And I don't think we ever did find out who that other one is, or it could be the character in the epilogue portion of this story as well. But as she thought she was out of the clear thanks to your character agreeing to keep it a secret, she would soon regret that that's not the case, and she would regret not telling the truth on that note. You have been asked in the meantime by Master Mustard to complete 3 tasks to be worthy enough to earn the right to battle for a special armor. Each time that you complete the task, Clara begins to get jealous and again entitled and spoiled, and hating the fact that like she let you in on this, but not realizing that your skills and abilities are very high. And again, a lot of that is unbeknownst to her and the entire dojo, not knowing that the current and reigning champion who dethroned Leon, they don't realize that your character is that person because they're not connected to what's going on in the Gala region. The completion of the challenges results in you in a battle between you and Clara because you both have tied, and a lot of it is basically Clara whining and crying to get her way into this part, and they're just saying, okay, yeah, your family, let's do it, whatever. So you guys wind up getting to a battle, and the winner of the battle actually gets the armor. After defeating Clara, you receive the armor in the form of a new Pokemon named Kubfu, possibly one of the cutest new designs that they have made to date. Kubfu is a new fighting Pokemon with an assimilated ability that is matched by other Pokemon like Eevee. So you will spend time with Kubfu to bond and level up with him, while also facing against new Pokemon that I've actually had the chance of finding, such as Among Us, Fetch Hinder, Bufflint, which is like my favorite character. He's a bull with an afro, and Rockruff, which was like a really cute puppy Pokemon. No, Bufflint, which is I love his design. He's a bull, like literally a huge bull with an afro in it, and he does inflict a lot of huge damage. So I love that as well. So you also now can talk and travel. I'm sorry, you can now walk and travel with your Pokemon, much like you did with Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. That game, which I always thought, like, why wasn't that on the game before, and why did they wait till the expansion quest to do it? But better late than never. You now can walk with your Pokemon. If your Pokemon is the first Pokemon on your in your pack, then that's the Pokemon that you will be walking with. So you can have Pikachu with you, like the anime series, or you can have Kubfu or whoever you want to walk with you now everywhere you go. So that's cool. I thought that was pretty awesome on there as well. Now the thing is too, very interesting. Logically, if characters like Kubfu or Pikachu can't walk that fast because they're small, then you will most likely speed past them, and as you're running, so you gotta pace yourself with them and make sure that they meet up with you. But if you're like a huge Pokemon, then it will be able to keep up with your pace throughout the whole time. I do want to point out, too, the other cool thing about this is that you get a new bike. You get a new style bike. They mentioned this before on the Nintendo Direct, though, but it's really cool to see. Now, there's a person who can redesign your bike and pimp your bike out. You can make it white or black, but even more is that you're faster this time around. So they tricked it really well. And you get this little really cool blur bike effect with it as well. So it's awesome. I like what they did with that. There's a nice little added touch to that as well. So you and Cupfu journey to prove that you are skilled enough to face Master Mustard in a more intense battle than the first time around, because you beat him the first time around, but it was just like for sparring. This time around, you actually it becomes more intense. To do this, you choose one of two paths, which consists of two abilities for Cupfu's evolution. And that's the Tower of Water or the Tower of Darkness. The Tower of Water, if you go to that path, you will acquire the ability to have Cupfu use Water type, and which is a new fighting Water type deal that allows you to do multiple strikes, a combo of strikes. If you do the Tower of Darkness, you become pretty much Akuma in a sense, but also requiring a one strike deal, which I believe just puts more, requires more damage to you. Whereas the water type it's a multiple combination of strikes that you do. So it's there. And I felt that there was a Bruce Lee type of tribute going on here, especially with the water. So I went with the water in there. And I felt like the darkness was hinting on Akuma, Goki, if you will. So I was like, I'm going to stay away from there. I'm going to respect Master Lee and go for that. And not to mention the yellow and black with one stripe gi that you also acquire in the game was believed to be a tribute to Bruce Lee as well. So I thought that was awesome. I wanted to be water in this case. So you beat him and you get a chance to evolve Cupfu to Urshifu, which is a really, really cool looking Pokemon. I love, he kind of does, I hate to say it, but he does look like he has a hint of Ryu, a slight hint of Ryu in there. And even by the way he does his stance and everything too, it's just awesome. Which includes one of the two new abilities as well that I recommend not switching for any other thing, because as of yet I don't know if you could get a training disc with that, so a TM disc for it. So I don't know if you'll be able to master that. I think that may be a one-time deal, so be careful as to whether you want to do it or not. Once you complete that task, you will end the main story of this expansion, and to it an epilogue involving a familiar friend that you played on the main game who helps you search for ingredients to make max soup, which is something that you've already made before, but this time you have a extra ingredient that you'll be able to find here. So the game offers really nothing more to the story other than that, and it is a really short story. You do have a couple of mini quests in there, but the mini quests aren't that appealing. They really are not. I mean, you find a few Digis or Diglets throughout this game. You get extra Pokemon for finding them, and some of the Pokemon are really cool, but it's just like, other than that, it's really nothing. I mean, there is a lot of good replay value already in the game because you have the original main map that allows you to train and compete in the tournaments and all this stuff. But honestly, when it's all said and done, when it's all over, it was okay. I mean, overall, the expansion was, honestly, it really was kind of a disappointment in the sense of it didn't really give you a huge experience. And I've played a lot of different expansion stories, recently that were like excellent. And I mean, absolutely fantastic follow-up storylines. And I'm talking to that of Mortal Kombat 11 Aftermath. And I even stretch it out even more to Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 with their expansion. Like, nobody knew that they were coming out with a story, and that story was awesome because it involved Doctor Doom and Fantastic Four. So, amongst others, expansions that you had. So, I mean, yeah, I felt like they could have done better here, because while you get the same great quality gameplay, and that never changed, there was nothing new added to that. While you get the same quality gameplay, fans of the series have been known to love, I felt like the story felt very lackluster with an anticlimactic ending that left me like, meh. I was hoping for an epic storytelling experience with the feel of a Pokemon movie, because if you've ever watched a Pokemon movie, it always resulted in there's a formulaic thing happens in Pokemon movies. One, there's a really, really vicious bad guy or really bad antagonist that Ash always has to face, followed by some really epic climatic battles, because they upped the ante with the animation and everything there. So I was hoping for that type of experience, because we got that experience from other anime titles before. I will give it, One Piece has given us a game that gave us the same type of movie experience as they would in the game. I think it was R Unlimited. That was the one, and I really enjoyed that they gave that to us in that fashion. Hell, the recent deal gave us sort of kind of a great experience as well. But instead, we were left with a game experience that was equivalent to a bad filler episodic saga that we see it often in other anime series. So hopefully the next expansion pack or quest, the Crown Thundra, which I believe is coming in December, will make up for this, because this did not, to me, live up. It was just there. When I felt like it was going to lead to something, it didn't. So it was. I would have been better if they just gave us the Pokemon character and everything, because it just didn't. I mean, presentation wise, it was great, but overall, the execution of it, and when I just felt like if this was related to a theater experience, I just left the theater like, so if I was to grade this expansion quest, unfortunately I'm gonna have to give it a C+. It was just there. It didn't feel worthy at all, and I got some cool little things out of it. I got some good Pokemon. There were some new Pokemon in there, but when you try to put in a story, you gotta give the story an oomph, especially when you compare it to other expansion story modes and quests and whatever that people have been playing lately. Let's just see if the other one, and then even more, the worst part about the Pokemon games is that you can't replay these stories again. You can never, unless you had to start it all over again. And it's like, do you really want to go through all that? I mean, can we get a new game plus mode in these damn Pokemon games, for God's sake? I would love to play these games with the same amount of characters I've had before. But you do, at least to their credit, you are able, because you weren't able to kind of do this before. Well, you could in some games, but you are at least able to replay the tournaments again, and just keep living through the experience of that. So, but I still would love to play some of the story again, because some of the story was really good. So, folks, there you have it. That will do it for this edition of Select Start. Thank you all for being a part of the show, and hopefully I was able to take away and entertain you for this time that I was able to. This Sunday, I did say I was going to do Knives Out, which is available on Amazon Prime right now for those Prime subscribers. I'm flipping the script. I want to check out Spike Lee's latest project, Defy Blood. So I am going to talk about that, which is available now on Netflix. So if you're a Spike Lee fan, definitely chime in. I want to give my thoughts on that as well. Knives Out, I think I will do down the line, just not now. I think due to the circumstances and the situations that is going on right now, I definitely want to check out the Five Bloods, because it's an interesting story about 4 African-American veterans who returned to Vietnam decades after the war to find their squad leader's remains and a stash of buried gold. So I believe I was told that a lot of the things that were relevant going on today, unbeknownst to Spike Lee, were put into the movie. And just so happens that things are happening now, and it all makes back. So I want to watch that with everything going on and reflect on that as well. So that is what I will be doing tomorrow. And Knives Out, I will check out. But another thing I do want to check out, I may actually do this, which is why Knives Out may have to take a step down a little bit further. I have been looking at the Kaneko Man series very intently. The first 100 and something episodes or whatnot. Some of the sagas, I've been watching this thoroughly. I love Kaneko Man. And in some cases, I may hate Kaneko Man after watching these episodes because there's some very interesting things that is worth talking about. And why I'm hoping that they do a reboot to this series because it desperately needs it. And what was going on at the time and what they were doing. I had to reach out to people that I know from Japan in order to possibly answer some of the things that were going on during this series when it was out. And what may have been the ideology of the time during what was going on, because there's some things that could be loved. The stories, there's some great saga in the stories, and that could even be compared to today's professional wrestling. But also, there were some very controversial things in here, and I mean like very, very, very controversial things. I mean racist things in here. So we're going to talk about that maybe next week. I'm almost finished watching this thing. But it's going to be an interesting thing to talk about. So if you're a Kaneko Man fan, but you haven't really watched everything, or if you did, definitely stick around. We're going to talk about that anime, that classic anime series. And it's going to be very interesting from there. So let's cap it off from there. Folks, please follow us. And for any new listeners out there, especially the ones on Podbean, thank you for being a part of the show. Thank you for following and checking out this show. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Podbean, once again, for making our show noticeable on this on their new upcoming list. I am honored. I am honored that they put us on the featured list in there, and I've worked ever so hard to get noticed out there as much as possible. And also, by the way, for those in Philly that are listening, I do have some news. You may already know this, may not, but I will talk about this on Sunday. I prefer to talk to this on Sunday because that's the Prime show, in reference to a certain event that was being worked on in Philadelphia that I was involved with as well. So we'll talk about it. You may already know about it, but we'll talk about it thoroughly from there. So we'll talk about that. Folks, please continue to follow us on TalkTimeLive.com for all of our episodes there. You can check out all of our episodes that are upcoming, as well as our exclusive interviews with some of the most known names in all of our favorite fandoms. You could go to TalkTimeLive.com, click on the exclusive tab, or if you want to go directly there, type in TalkTimeLive.com/exclusive. You can also subscribe and download every episode, never miss a beat, on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, again, Podbean, Pocket Cast, and all Amazon devices. We are everywhere and anywhere you want to hear this show. Please keep supporting this show. Thank you so much. I am humbled, and hopefully I can always entertain you as best I can during these times. So, folks, definitely go out of your way to check us out there. Remember, tomorrow we're going to be talking about the Five Bloods and whatever comes from next. And I do have some games that I'm going to be reviewing in the next couple weeks, so stay tuned for that as well. That will do it. On behalf of myself, this is Dak Xavier Josiah saying, learn to let go, live life, and love all things anime, comics, movies, and games. This is A.C.M.G. presents Talk Time Live. I am out of here, people. Keep fighting for our peace. Keep fighting for our equality. Take care.
Music for this episode is provided by Game Chops. Check out these great chiptune tracks and more at music.gamechops.com.